Alright, from United Sanctuary, Dragon Empire, Stargate, and Dark Zone, we now go to the Magallanica decks by ranking them based on their design and playstyle and not by whatever's the best. And obviously, it's all based on my opinion, and spoiler, most of them are going to be Aquaforce themed because Aquaforce is actually one of my favorite clans. And also, there's only 3 clans in Magallanica, so it's very limited when it comes to choosing the amount of decks, although Bermuda has a lot, but most of them play very similar. So I'm going to try to differentiate some of them, especially on their unique play style, on how I like it anyway. But on that, let's begin. So on the bottom of my list, which is number 5, it's Rara Raid. Now why I say Rara Raid despite not being a very popular Bermuda Triangle unit? Well, the deck is actually very unique in comparison to most Bermuda Triangle decks, mainly for the fact that it doesn't focus on having the Vanguard attacking, it focuses on having your rear guards attacking, while also at the same time, you're going to be revealing cards from the top card of your deck, basically doing main phase drive checks. And that's what I find very unique about Rara Raid. And she also has an evolved form, which is the rock version, which can actually let you do a Vanguard attack. But overall, I do find this a little bit of a unique deck where it basically lets you generate a lot of value, but sacrifices your Vanguard attack for it. When then with rock, you basically just get back your Vanguard attack while still basically maintaining your drive checks, which is something I kind of like, but at the same time it loses its pressure, but I find it a little unique, so I just put this on the list. Number 4, Night Rose. Whether that we get the original holo or not, with the V, both play styles are pretty cool because it focuses on counting the number of cards in the drop zone. And I like that extra benefit added into the Grand Blue deck basically, where it basically originally focused on mainly just calling from the drop zone, but with Night Rose, you basically have to count your drop zone as well, and basically the more you have, the stronger you get, so you have more dead soldiers for one. And 2, I also like that they also trigger with holo and the end phase retire. Because of the end phase retire, your opponent basically cannot do much against your rear guards while you can still resurrect and benefit from them. So it's something I just overall like, and also her design is pretty cool. And also her stride units are pretty cool. Not entirely the most unique to Grand Blue, but I do like the fact that there is the drop zone focus, especially on building up the count. Number 3, it's the Colorful Pastel deck or the Melody deck. Mainly for the Melody mechanic, where they all share the Melody ability and giving abilities to each other while also playing a bit Highlander, aka running a bunch of different units. And it's something I kind of like because I always like having variety of units while still retaining some of its Bermuda playstyle of bouncing back to hand and then doing more stuff. And design wise, they look pretty gorgeous as well, and there's also grade 4s for the deck in a way, which is definitely another added bonus because this is one of those rare decks that actually have grade 4s that you can actually main in. And I'm not even talking about strides. But other than that, there's really not much to say about this one. Number 2, it's Blue Wave Last Card Revon. Now it could either be Valios or Last Card Revon, but I find Last Card Revon more so because this Aquaforce deck focuses more on having the number of rearguards rested compared to the multi-attack, because there is a difference when it comes to doing the number of attacks and having the number rested. Like 1, you don't actually need to commit more attacks, but more so commit more on the board. But also I like the extra multi-attackers that Last Card Revon gets, even though it's in Blue Waves for some reason. And speaking of Blue Waves, Last Card Revon along with Valios both focuses on changing your opponent's power to less than basically their own base power. And that's something I also really like as well. But other than that, there's really not much to say about it. But in the Blue Waves case, it does still have some focus on the multi-attack, especially for your Vanguard. It's just too bad if you play the V version, Tetra Drive doesn't really work for the deck. But their designs are still pretty cool, and that's why I say more so Revon, because Revon is a little more unique when it comes to Aquaforce playstyle. And now, before we go to number 1, honorable mentions. So first off, Kitis mainly in the V, because in that version, it might still retain the drop zone recalling, but the main part of Kitis that gets a little more unique is that, similar to Night Rose in the original, is that it still focuses on your drop zone count, while still focusing on putting key pieces in the drop zone and doing stuff. And that's something I really like about Kitis, especially with reverse, because that one can superior ride during battle. And then we go to Coral, which has a pretty gorgeous playstyle and a gorgeous design, but still plays mostly with Bermuda playstyle of basically still bouncing stuff back to your hand while calling more stuff to hand. But what I like from Coral is that it focuses on herself and other versions of herself, hence the name just Coral. And I really love the cool benefits that Coral can give basically to herself. But once again, there's really not much to say about this deck. And then of course another Aquaforce deck, this time Davos. Design wise I kinda like, especially riding on a seahorse, but whether it's V or the original, they both kind of have a very similar idea here where you still want to perform your multi-attacks, but the V1 is a little more unique. Because the V1 focuses on more resting your rear guards the main phase and then basically do your pseudo stride in battle. And then do your shenanigans there, even though there's really not much after because V Davos doesn't really have much support. But when we go through the original Davos, we got the wave mechanic, which is basically just more attacks the better for Aquaforce, so it's typical Aquaforce. But when it comes to Davos, with the wave mechanic is that it makes it stronger each wave you go. There's actually a low tier limit of the wave and the high tier limit, so it could go from like 3 to 5 in most cases. It doesn't even need to be exact limit usually. It's just overall pretty cool, but not the most unique of Aquaforce decks either. Because number 1, it's the original first Aquaforce deck, which is Maelstorm. The second Abro Dragon, and it's awesome for its design. And the playstyle is just basically every other Aquaforce deck, but this one focuses it's on multi-attack on column switching, which is something I really like when it comes to Maelstorm, while also still having restanding rear guards just to build up your 4th attack. And of course, when you perform the 4th attack with a face pour Maelstorm, you retire your opponent's rearguard and you'd also draw for some extra benefits. But I also like Maelstorm's playstyle because when you go for the finisher, and I mean any finisher Maelstorm because there's multiple of them, it has guard restrict pulling judgment on your opponent. And that judgment is usually very nasty because their guard restricts are usually very nasty. Glory Maelstorm, depending on which version, can basically block a bunch of stuff from guarding. And you play something like Engulf Maelstrom, it's basically like a ticking time bomb. And then if there's Maelstrom Reverse, it's basically a win-win situation where you get a crit, and if your crit misses, you still hurt your opponent. And their designs are pretty cool. Just overall a very awesome deck, and I'm still hoping for Encounter Glory Maelstrom. So that's it on my list on favorite Magallanica decks. What do you guys think of it? And how would you rank them? And what would you put in the list? Remember, this is all based on my opinion, so go ahead and tell me yours. But other than that, there's really not much to say here since there's only 3 clans, while one of the clans takes most of the decks, aka the waifu one. And that one basically has a lot of decks that play basically very similar, so I don't really get why there needs to be so many, but okay. But on that, that's it for this, and see you all next time, and to the final nation, the Zoo Nation, which also has only 3 clans.